The morning I found Karen's $80,000 Mercedes blocking my disabled veteran father's medical transport, again, I knew that pristine white SUV was about to disappear forever. And the best part? She'd practically beg me to take it. Picture this. It's 6 a.m., my dad's wheelchair-accessible van is honking, he's about to miss dialysis, and there's Karen sipping her skinny latte in her kitchen window, actually smiling at our predicament. That smile cost her everything, her car, her house, her freedom, and wait till you hear what her own husband did when he found out. What would you do if your HOA president turned your life into a living hell? Drop your worst HOA nightmare below. I'm collecting stories for my lawyer. Where are you watching from? Texas? Florida? Because if you've got an HOA, you need to know the 3 laws I used to destroy Karen completely legally. Trust me, after 47 blocked driveways, revenge served ice-cold tastes even better than you imagine. Let me paint you a picture of how this suburban war started, because Karen Whitmore Stanton didn't just stumble into my life, she precision-targeted it like a heat-seeking missile aimed at happiness. My name's Marcus Castellano, 45, construction contractor, who made the cosmic mistake of inheriting Grandma's house in Pine Valley Estates. Now, Grandma Rosa was a legend. Back in '92, she fought the HOA formation with the fury of 1,000 Italian mothers, calling it legalized extortion by bored fascists. God, I miss that woman's wisdom. 3 months ago, I moved in with my pregnant wife, Deborah, 8 months along and still teaching 4th grade because teachers are tougher than Navy SEALs. And my father, Anthony, a Vietnam vet who's been wheelchair-bound since a construction accident triggered old shrapnel wounds. This man built half of Phoenix with his bare hands before his spine gave out, and all he needed was a simple ramp to visit his grandkids. Enter Karen Whitmore Stanton, the human equivalent of a HOA violation notice. Technically legal, but morally bankrupt. Day 3 after moving in, I remember because diesel fumes from the moving truck still clung to everything. This 5-foot tornado of suburban fury clicked across my driveway in $800 heels, trailing enough perfume to violate the Geneva Convention. That structure needs architectural approval, she announced, pointing her French manicure at Dad's temporary wheelchair ramp like it was a crime scene. Her iPad case matched her coral cardigan, which matched her Mercedes, which matched her soul. Cold, white, and overpriced. My dad needs this ramp, I explained, watching her tap that screen like she was launching nuclear codes. The committee meets in 6 to 8 weeks, she smiled, the kind of smile that makes sharks nervous. I'm sure he can manage until then. That night, Dad tried the stairs and nearly cracked his skull when his arms gave out. So at 7 a.m., I rebuilt that ramp with every power tool howling. By 7:15, a $500 fine appeared on my door, the paper still warm from her printer, smelling faintly of entitlement and toner. But here's what I didn't know yet about Karen. She wasn't just some bored housewife playing dictator. This woman was a real estate agent who'd turned our HOA into her personal lead generation machine. Her white Mercedes GLS 450 with its rules for me vanity plate serving as a mobile advertisement for her power. She lived in the McMansion directly across from me, a 6,000 square foot monument to bad taste with perfect sightlines to monitor my every code violation. Her husband Richard owned Stanton Construction, my biggest competitor, though I wouldn't connect those dots until she'd already cost me $40,000 in lost contracts. The woman had a system refined over 8 years of presidential terror. Apply just enough pressure to break you without leaving fingerprints. Enforce rules selectively, like a sniper choosing targets. Document everything in triplicate while violating federal mail laws. She thought she was untouchable, protected by Robert's rules and her wine-drunk board members who voted in lockstep because she controlled their property values like a suburban puppet master. What Karen didn't realize was that she'd just declared war on the grandson of Rosa Castellano, the woman who once got a city councilman recalled for trying to zone her tomato garden as commercial agriculture. I'd inherited more than Grandma's ramshackle ranch house. I'd inherited her Sicilian temper, her file cabinet of neighborhood secrets, and her absolute intolerance for bullies in any form, especially those wearing coral cardigans and too much white diamonds perfume. Game on, Karen. You just didn't know you'd already lost. 2 weeks later, Karen declared war on my livelihood with a smile sweeter than cyanide. I was loading my F-250 at dawn when she materialized beside me like Satan in beige polyester, iPad clutched like a weapon of mass destruction. "Marcus?" she cooed, her voice dripping fake concern. "We need to discuss your..." commercial vehicle situation. The way she said commercial made it sound like hazardous waste. According to the emergency HOA meeting held while I was pouring concrete across town, funny how emergencies always happen when I'm gone, all commercial vehicles now required screening from street view within 30 days. Daily fines, $100. My work truck, the one feeding my family and paying my mortgage, was apparently a visual terrorist attacking property values. "I'm sure you can make room in your garage," she suggested, knowing damn well it housed Dad's medical equipment and wheelchair van. The woman's perfume cloud was so thick I could taste it, white diamonds mixed with sulfur. That evening, Dad watched me pace the kitchen like a caged animal while Deborah stress-cooked enough lasagna to feed a battalion. "Boys playing dirty," Dad observed, his war-trained instincts firing. "Question is, why is she targeting you specifically?" His words hit like lightning. This wasn't random. This was personal. Mini twist number 1. The next morning revealed the answer when 3 Stanton construction trucks parked brazenly on our street, their commercial logos bigger than billboards, completely unmolested by HOA fines. Richard Stanton, Karen's husband, my biggest competitor who'd mysteriously won every municipal contract I'd bid on lately. The pieces clicked together like bullets into a chamber. She was using HOA rules to eliminate his competition. I spent 7 days building an airtight case, time-stamped photos, GPS coordinates, enough evidence to bury them both. Even captured Richard himself directing crews while parked in the fire lane. The hypocrisy reeked worse than hot asphalt in August. The next HOA meeting became my war room. I walked into that beige community center. It smelled like despair and instant coffee, with a phone full of evidence and a spine full of Grandma Rosa's DNA. Karen presided from her elevated throne, surrounded by her wine club board members who looked like they'd rather be anywhere else. "I move to address selective enforcement of vehicle codes," I announced, hijacking the projector before anyone could stop me. The room gasped as images filled the screen. Stanton trucks violating every code Karen had cited me for. Dates and times blazing like accusations. Karen's face cycled through 50 shades of rage, her composure cracking like dollar store makeup. "Those are temporary work situations," she sputtered, voice climbing octaves. "Your eyesore is permanent." The board voted 4-1 to uphold my fines, but their eyes screamed what their mouths wouldn't. They knew this was wrong. They were just too scared of their queen to revolt, yet. Mini twist number 2. My real ammunition came from Ethel Morrison. 82 pounds of pure rebellion wrapped in a grandma disguise. She intercepted me in the parking lot, shoving a manila folder into my hands like we were spies trading secrets. "Your grandmother was my best friend," she whispered, lavender perfume masking the scent of revolution. She knew this day would come. "Article 15, sweetie. Read it tonight." Her arthritis-gnarled fingers squeezed mine with surprising strength. "Rosa always said the best defense is having better paperwork than your enemies." The yellowed documents revealed Grandma's genius, a grandfather clause protecting all pre-existing property uses from future HOA restrictions. Our property had run Rosa's landscaping since 1973, making it mixed-use commercial, making my truck untouchable, making Karen's fines toilet paper. Legal knowledge nugget: pre-existing use rights override new HOA rules. Always demand to see original founding documents because your property's history is your best legal shield. One sentence can save you thousands. I posted Article 15 on my truck window, surrounded by photos of Grandma Rosa running her business, including one where she's flipping off the camera with magnificent Italian fury. When Karen's Mercedes crawled past that morning, I watched her face contort behind the tinted glass, her mouth moving in what I'm pretty sure weren't prayers. She'd lost round 1, but the way her hands gripped that steering wheel told me everything. This suburban dictator was about to get nuclear. Wounded Karens don't retreat. They reload, and my driveway was about to become her favorite target. Karen's revenge started at 5:47 a.m. on a Monday because apparently evil sets its alarm early. Her white Mercedes sat diagonally across my driveway like a $80,000 roadblock while she visited the neighbor whose house was darker than her soul. My 6:30 meeting with the Johnsons, a $40,000 bathroom remodel that would cover Dad's medical bills, was ticking closer while I waited for cops who arrived at 6:25, just in time to watch Karen materialize with Oscar-worthy timing. "Oh, Marcus, I had no idea you needed to leave. Margaret had a plumbing emergency." Margaret had been in Florida for 3 weeks. I knew because I'd been collecting her mail, unlike some people who apparently steamed it open for fun. The missed meeting went to Stanton Construction. Shocking, absolutely nobody. But Karen was just getting started. Tuesday, she blocked my concrete delivery, costing me $500 in restocking fees. Wednesday, she trapped Dad's medical transport for 38 minutes, his driver honking while she accidentally left her car during urgent HOA business. Thursday nearly broke me. Deborah, 9 months pregnant, stuck behind Karen's Mercedes while having contractions that turned out to be false labor induced by pure rage. Each time Karen moved moments before legal consequences, and Thursday I spotted why. A police scanner app glowing on her phone between Pinterest and Wine O'Clock Moms. The woman had weaponized suburban technology against us. Friday evening changed everything. Dad held up our water bill with the precision of examining enemy intelligence, the envelope wrinkled and smudged. "Someone's reading our mail," he announced. "See the adhesive? Steamed and re-glued. In Nam, we'd have shot spies for technique this sloppy." That's when the pattern hit me like a 2x4. Karen knew our appointments, our schedules, our entire lives because she was intercepting our mail. I'd actually read about this in some HOA horror story online. Mail theft was a federal felony, 5 years in prison, but proving it required more than Dad's forensic analysis. Weekend turned me into a suburban spy. Amazon delivered a magnetic GPS tracker that could survive anything short of nuclear war. I installed a hidden camera disguised as a landscape light, HOA approved ironically, aimed at our mailbox. The trap, a fake appointment letter from Johnson Medical Group for Tuesday at 2 p.m., placed tantalizingly in the mailbox like cheese for a very entitled rat. Monday's footage was beautiful. Karen in her $300 yoga outfit, photographing our mail at 6 a.m. before pocketing the medical decoy entirely. I remembered my cousin Tony telling me once that federal prosecutors loved mail theft cases, slam dunks with mandatory minimums, and suddenly felt like Christmas had come early. Tuesday at 1:45, her Mercedes blocked my driveway with the reliability of atomic decay. I let her marinate in her smugness for 20 minutes before approaching with my phone recording. "I need to leave for my appointment," I said sweetly. Her smirk could have curdled milk. "What appointment?" I held up an identical envelope. "The Johnson Medical Group one, same as the one that vanished from my mailbox yesterday. The one currently sitting on your passenger seat between the Starbucks cups and HOA violation forms." Watching her face collapse was better than pay-per-view boxing. While she scrambled for excuses, I bent to attach my note to her bumper, actually the GPS tracker clicking home with the satisfaction of a loaded shotgun. "Drive safe, Karen. Expired tags are expensive, aren't they?" Her registration sticker was 6 months out of date, which I'd noticed while she was busy violating federal law. She peeled out like a teenager caught smoking, leaving rubber and the stench of burnt entitlement. That tracker became my window into Karen's criminal habits. Over the next week, it showed her Mercedes regularly in handicapped spaces, fire lanes, and at the DMV where, thanks to beautiful public records, I discovered her license was suspended from last year's DUI. The woman citing us for violations was driving illegally everywhere like a health inspector with food poisoning. My contractor buddy had warned me about people like this. The loudest rule enforcers are usually the biggest rule breakers. It's projection, pure and simple. During one of her driveway blocking episodes, while she was terrorizing the Patel family about their rose bushes, I glimpsed inside her car. The glove box overflowed with tickets, court summons, and final notices. Empty wine bottles hid under designer bags, and the whole interior reeked of Pinot Grigio and poor decisions. This wasn't just hypocrisy, this was ammunition. Every citation she'd written while driving on a suspended license was legally invalid. Every HOA fine she'd issued while committing crimes was grounds for a lawsuit. I'd been playing defense against someone who didn't even have a legal right to be on the field. The war was shifting, and Karen didn't know it yet. She thought she was fighting a contractor with a truck. She was actually fighting someone who'd just discovered her glass house was built on quicksand, and I was about to start throwing boulders. Karen's nuclear option detonated on a Tuesday morning when a white van marked Adult Protective Services pulled into my driveway. The social worker, a tired-looking woman clutching a clipboard like a life preserver, explained someone had reported serious concerns about an elderly veteran being neglected in unsafe conditions. Anonymous tip, of course, but I could smell Karen's perfume on this attack from across the street. where she pretended to water already dead petunias while watching our humiliation unfold. Dad handled the inspection with military composure until they reached his medication questions. Then something cracked. "My boy takes better care of me than the VA ever did," he said, voice shaking, hands trembling. Not from age, but from fury mixed with flashback. "I didn't survive Tet to be treated like a child by some—" He stopped, jaw clenched, as the social worker photographed his living space like a crime scene. That night, his PTSD nightmares returned for the first time in years. I heard him calling for his squad at 3 a.m., trapped in a jungle that existed only in memory and Karen's cruelty. 2 days later, Deborah called me from her classroom, sobbing so hard I could barely understand her. "Marcus, someone reported me to CPS. They said I was recklessly endangering our baby, driving dangerously. They showed up at school, pulled me out of class in front of my students. My pregnant wife, who'd never gotten a speeding ticket in her life, was interrogated about her fitness as a mother because Karen had apparently followed her to work, photographing her going 28 in a 25 zone. The stress spiked Deborah's blood pressure so high her doctor ordered immediate bed rest. False labor struck again that night, and I spent 6 hours in the ER wondering if Karen's vendetta would cost us our baby. That's when I discovered Karen's mistake. She'd gotten cocky, sloppy. Hospital security pulled me aside and showed me footage from their parking garage. There was Karen's Mercedes, following Deborah's car for 20 minutes, lurking like a designer-clad stalker. The security chief, a former Marine who'd bonded with Dad during visits, handed me a DVD copy. "Might want to file a restraining order," he suggested. "This looks like harassment to me." But I had bigger plans than restraining orders. I had research to do. My contractor network runs deep in this city. We build houses, we fix problems, we know everyone's business. 3 phone calls revealed Karen's history. 5 different addresses in 10 years, always leaving after neighborhood disputes. Tommy from Elite Plumbing knew her from Scottsdale. She got the HOA president arrested for embezzlement, then took over. Year later, she was gone, and 40 grand was missing from the HOA account. Mike the electrician had worse. Willow Creek subdivision. She reported 6 families to CPS before someone proved she was making false reports. Fled before charges were filed. The pattern was clear as a blueprint. Karen was a serial neighborhood terrorist, but the real gold came from Ethel during our weekly intelligence exchange in the produce aisle. "Did you know our Karen owes the HOA $47,000? She whispered over the bananas. "President exemption," she calls it. Hasn't paid dues in 8 years while fining everyone else for being a day late. Ethel's nephew worked at the title company and had pulled records showing Karen's house carried 3 liens and a pending foreclosure notice. The real estate agent lecturing us about property values was drowning in debt, using HOA funds as her personal piggy bank. That night, our kitchen became a war room. Dad, energized by righteous fury, had connected with other victims through the VA center. Turned out Karen had targeted 3 other veteran families. Deborah, from her bed rest command center, created a Facebook group that gained 50 members in 2 hours. Victims of Karen became a support group and intelligence network. The Patel family shared how she'd reported their Hindu decorations as gang symbols. The Johnsons revealed she'd called the health department on their daughter's lemonade stand. Even the quiet Korean family posted videos of Karen screaming about their ethnic cooking smells. Every story painted the same picture: a bigot with a badge abusing power to torment anyone different. The CPS investigator returned that week, and I was ready. His name was Jim Martinez, Vietnam vet with eyes that had seen too much bureaucratic cruelty. When he saw Dad's service medals and heard about the APS harassment, something shifted in his face. "I've seen this pattern before," he said quietly. "Serial false reporters targeting military families, minorities, anyone vulnerable. It's predatory." He handed me his card with personal cell number written on back. "When you nail her, and you will, call me. I'll testify about the false reports. People like her make our job harder, hurt real victims." As he left, he paused at the door. "Your dad reminds me of my sergeant. Take care of him. And take her down." The pieces were aligning like dominoes waiting to fall. Financial fraud, mail theft, false reports, stalking, civil rights violations. Karen had built an empire of crimes thinking her HOA throne made her untouchable. She didn't know about our growing alliance, our documented evidence, or that her precious annual HOA gala was 3 weeks away. The same gala where she networked for real estate clients, where she played queen to potential buyers, where her reputation mattered more than her fake designer bags. Ethel had secured us 3 invitations, and I had contractor friends who specialized in audio-visual installations. Karen loved the spotlight. We were about to make sure she got one she'd never forget. The breakthrough came at 2 a.m. on a sleepless Thursday, while I was digging through HOA documents like a detective possessed. Buried in subsection 47C of our insurance policies, the kind of mind-numbing legalese designed to prevent anyone from reading it, I found the golden bullet that would end Karen's reign. My hands actually shook as I read it 3 times to make sure I wasn't dreaming. According to the HOA's own automotive coverage policy, any vehicle on HOA common property could be towed if it met 3 criteria: blocking emergency access, unregistered or uninsured, or posing a safety hazard. The kicker? Karen's driveway, that concrete pad where her Mercedes sat like a throne, wasn't actually her property. A surveyor's error in 2003 had placed her driveway 6 feet into HOA common area, a mistake no one had caught because who checks surveys after construction? Karen had been illegally parking on community property for 15 years while fining others for infractions that didn't even exist. I called Rodrigo at dawn, my best friend since high school, who now owned Rodriguez Recovery, the most successful towing company in the county. "Hermano, you awake?" I asked. "For you? Always. What's the target?" When I explained the situation, his laugh was pure joy. "The white Mercedes? The one whose owner called my truck's visual pollution at the city council meeting? Oh, this is destiny, brother. Everything by the book, legal as Sunday church." The beauty was in the simplicity. State law said vehicles with suspended registration on public property could be immediately impounded. HOA bylaws, the ones Karen wrote herself in her power-drunk wisdom, stated the board president must enforce all regulations equally without exception. She'd created a legal bear trap and parked her own foot in it every single day. Her suspended license, expired registration, and illegal parking made her Mercedes a towing company's dream score. But the revelation went deeper. That survey error meant Karen had been collecting HOA violation fines while simultaneously violating HOA rules more egregiously than anyone. Every single fine she'd issued while parked illegally was potentially invalid. Every board meeting she'd conducted from her position of hypocrisy was grounds for lawsuit. I felt like an archaeologist who'd discovered a tomb full of legal gold. Dad listened to my explanation over morning coffee, his tactical mind immediately seeing the angles. "It's like she built a minefield, then forgot her own map," he mused. "Pride before the fall, boy. Same in war, same in HOAs. Deborah, still on bed rest, but sharp as ever, added the crucial insight. The gala. She'll park there for sure, probably in a fire lane for her grand entrance. Maximum witnesses, maximum humiliation. The annual HOA gala was Karen's coronation ceremony, where she held court for potential real estate clients and renewed her grip on power. 300 people would attend, including local media covering the community event. I spent the next week preparing legal documentation with the precision of a surgeon. Every form Rodrigo would need, every legal justification, every piece of evidence organized and copied. The law was beautiful in its clarity. We weren't just allowed to tow her car, we were technically obligated to once we knew about the violations. As HOA members aware of illegal activity on common property, failing to act made us complicit. Karen's own rules demanded her destruction. The final piece fell into place when I discovered subsection 47C, paragraph 9. In cases of vehicles towed from common areas, the HOA board president is personally liable for all fees, storage costs, and associated legal expenses if said vehicle was parked with their knowledge or consent. Since Karen couldn't claim ignorance of her own parking, she'd be personally on the hook for every penny. At Rodriguez Recovery's premium rates for illegal parking impounds, $500 hook fee, $200 daily storage, plus administrative costs, her Mercedes would generate bills that would make her mortgage look reasonable. Rodrigo and I met at his yard to plan the operation, surrounded by the mechanical poetry of tow trucks and the smell of diesel and justice. "We do this clean," he said, patting his truck's hood. "Cameras rolling, paperwork perfect, by the absolute letter of the law. When she screams lawsuit, I want to hand her the statute she wrote herself." We practiced the approach angles, the fastest hookup method, the exact route to avoid any legal ambiguity. This wasn't revenge, this was law enforcement. The fact that it would happen at her gala In front of everyone she'd terrorized, in view of news cameras she'd invited herself. That was just karma with excellent timing. Our revolution started in my garage, which reeked of motor oil and righteous fury. Within a week, it became the unofficial headquarters of the anti-Karen resistance, complete with whiteboards, laptops, and enough coffee to fuel a small nation. The alliance grew faster than black mold in a negligent landlord's property, 12 households officially on board, with more joining daily once word spread through the neighborhood like wildfire. Ethel Morrison became our inside woman, maintaining her facade of harmless old lady while gathering intelligence like a geriatric James Bond. Karen trusts me because I bring her zucchini bread, she explained, eyes twinkling with mischief. She has no idea I've been recording every confession she makes about dealing with problem neighbors. Dar. Patel, our forensic accountant by day and HOA victim by night, had spent 3 weeks analyzing financial records with the dedication of someone who'd been fined $500 for having the wrong shade of beige mailbox. The Johnsons, a tech-savvy couple Karen had harassed for their solar panels, handled our digital evidence compilation, creating a secure cloud server they nicknamed Karen Leaks. The real coup was Mike Brennan, our mailman for 15 years who'd watched Karen rifle through mail slots like a raccoon with a real estate license. Federal postal inspector's been wanting a case like this, he told me over beer in my garage. Mail theft by an HOA official? That's Christmas morning for those guys. I've been documenting every complaint, keeping photos of tampered boxes. Your girl's looking at federal time. He'd already submitted reports, just waiting for our signal to escalate. My lawyer, Gary Chen, who'd done free consultation after Karen tried to fine him for his ethnically inappropriate koi pond, laid out our legal strategy with the precision of a military campaign. We file the HOA records request first, force them to produce everything. Then we hit them with the survey discrepancy, the financial audit demand, and the compilation of false reports to agencies. Death by 1,000 paper cuts, all perfectly legal. He'd already drafted 17 different motions, each one a torpedo aimed at Karen's hull. The best part? HOA bylaws required them to pay legal fees for any member request that uncovered board malfeasance. The technical preparation consumed our nights. We installed hidden cameras at strategic points, all on private property, all perfectly legal, creating a surveillance network that would make casinos jealous. The Johnsons wrote a program that synced all footage to timestamps, creating an indisputable record of Karen's movements. Rodrigo contributed GPS trackers for the tow trucks, ensuring perfect documentation of the route from gala to impound. If she claims we damaged her car or took anything, we'll have video from 16 angles proving otherwise, he explained, installing his 7th dash cam. Dad turned our operation into a military exercise, complete with code names and synchronized watches. He'd rallied 5 other veterans from the VA center, all of whom had stories about Karen's harassment. Operation Tow Freedom, he called it, sketching attack plans like he was back in tactical ops. His contribution was brilliant in its simplicity. A phone tree that could mobilize 40 witnesses within 10 minutes. When that Mercedes gets hooked, I want everyone with a camera phone recording. Multiple angles, undeniable evidence. Deborah, despite bed rest orders, became our intelligence analyst. Look at this pattern, she said, laptop balanced on her pregnant belly, showing charts that looked like something from FBI headquarters. Karen's violations cluster around the 1st and 15th, paydays. She's using fines as income supplements. She'd identified 23 households hit with suspicious fines right before Karen's mortgage payments were due. It's a shakedown racket disguised as community standards. Her teacher's instinct for organization had created a database that would make prosecutors weep with joy. The printer in my garage ran hot enough to warm the room, churning out evidence packets that would paper the walls of a courtroom. Financial irregularities highlighting $186,000 in miscellaneous expenses that coincidentally matched Karen's credit card statements. Time-stamped photos of her Mercedes in handicapped spots at 12 different locations. Transcripts of her recorded HOA meetings where she'd admitted to targeting certain elements in the neighborhood. Each packet was a prosecutorial wet dream bound in clear covers. 3 nights before the gala, we held our final strategy meeting. 43 people crammed into my garage, sharing stories that would horrify anyone who believed in basic decency. The Korean family she'd reported for suspicious gatherings, family dinners. The black veteran she'd called the cops on for loitering, checking his own mail. The elderly Jewish couple fined for their mezuzah, unapproved door modification. Every story strengthened our resolve. This wasn't just about my family anymore. This was about everyone who'd ever been bulldozed by a petty tyrant with a clipboard. Remember, I addressed the group, everything we do is legal, documented, and justified. We're not vigilantes. We're citizens enforcing our own bylaws when our president won't. When that tow truck arrives, I want calm, legal, peaceful observation. Let Karen be the one who loses control. And she will. The room buzzed with anticipation like electricity before lightning. Everyone knew their role, their position, their timing. We'd turned Karen's weapon against her: organization, documentation, and ruthless adherence to rules. The gala was in 72 hours. The trap was set with Swiss watch precision. Karen thought she was attending her annual coronation. Instead, she'd be the star of her own public execution, directed by the people she'd terrorized, produced by the laws she'd written, and broadcast to everyone who mattered. Rodrigo had already cleared his schedule, his best driver on standby, the truck polished until it gleamed like justice itself. We were ready. Karen just didn't know it yet. Karen must have sensed danger the way animals smell earthquakes, because 3 days before the gala, she launched a desperation offensive that would have impressed Patton. It started when I found my truck on blocks, all 4 tires slashed with surgical precision. The security footage showed a figure in black at 3 a.m., but conveniently, spray paint had covered 3 of my 4 cameras just minutes before. The 4th camera, hidden in a birdhouse Deborah made at summer camp 20 years ago, captured everything in crystal clarity, including Karen's distinctive French manicure gripping the knife. "She's escalating," Dad observed, examining the damage like a crime scene investigator. "Seen this in combat. When rats get cornered, they attack." The replacement tires cost $100 to $200, but the insurance claim would be interesting. How do you explain your HOA president commits felony vandalism? Then came the call from my biggest client. "Marcus, I'm sorry, but we're going with another contractor. Someone sent us disturbing information about your business practices." The disturbing information was an anonymous blog called The Truth About Castellano Construction, complete with photoshopped images suggesting code violations and safety hazards that didn't exist. The blog was hosted on the HOA's official website server, a detail Karen apparently forgot while committing cyber defamation. The Johnsons traced the IP address to HOA board meetings, time-stamped to when Karen would have been present. She'd literally defamed me using HOA resources during official meetings, adding wire fraud to her growing collection of felonies. But the real shock came when 5 more clients called within 2 days, all canceling contracts worth over $200,000 total. She was trying to bankrupt me before the gala. Rodrigo called Wednesday night, voice tight with controlled anger. "Someone offered me $5,000 to refuse any tow calls from Pine Valley Estates this weekend. Cash, untraceable, very professional." He'd recorded the entire conversation on his phone, including the part where the caller mentioned consequences if he didn't comply. "Thing is, Hermano, they called from the HOA office line. Caller ID doesn't lie." We added witness tampering and bribery to Karen's rap sheet, which was starting to look like a criminal justice textbook. Thursday brought the cruelest blow yet. Deborah called me sobbing from the elementary school. "Marcus, someone called CPS again. They pulled both kids out of class, interrogated them about our home life, asked if mommy and daddy ever hurt them, if they felt safe, if there were drugs in the house. Our babies are terrified." The investigator was apologetic but thorough. The report had alleged specific details that required investigation. I raced to the school to find my 8-year-old son crying, asking why the lady wanted to know if daddy hit mommy. My daughter, only 6, kept repeating that she promised we were nice parents. That's when something snapped in me, but it was a cold snap, the kind that creates diamonds from coal. I called Jim Martinez, the CPS investigator who'd given me his card. "It's happening again," I said simply. "Same false reporter?" he asked, voice hardening. "Same pattern, same timing. Right before a major HOA event where we're planning to expose financial crimes." There was a pause. Then, "File a police report immediately. I'll add my statement about the pattern of false reports. This is witness intimidation using state resources. The DA takes that very seriously." He was right. Karen had crossed from civil harassment into criminal territory. The police detective who took our report was a HOA victim himself. "Let me guess," he said, looking at our pile of evidence. "The president runs it like a personal kingdom, selective enforcement, targets anyone who questions them?" His own HOA had sued him for having the wrong species of grass. He took extra care documenting everything, especially the cybercrimes. Blog posts during HOA meetings using HOA servers? That's embezzlement of services and wire fraud. Federal prosecutors love wire fraud. It's their bread and butter. But Karen saved her masterstroke for Friday morning, 24 hours before the gala. I was reviewing final preparations when Ethel called, breathless with urgency. Emergency HOA board meeting in 1 hour. Karen's trying to pass new bylaws. She wants to ban recording devices at all HOA events, prohibit members from hiring tow services without board approval, and make it illegal to gather in groups larger than 4 on HOA property. She was literally trying to legislate away our entire plan, using her presidential powers to protect herself from consequences. The meeting was a circus of desperation. Karen presided like a dictator sensing revolution, makeup slightly smeared, voice an octave too high. These measures are necessary to protect our community from organized harassment, she stammered, clearly reading from notes. The 4 board members looked uncomfortable, shifting in their seats as 40-plus homeowners packed the small room. When she called for immediate vote without discussion, violating Robert's rules, Dr. Patel stood up. Point of order, Madam President. Bylaws require 30-day notice for any voting measure. Page 47, Section 3. Karen's face cycled through red to purple. I'm invoking emergency powers for community safety. What emergency? Ethel asked innocently. The gala tomorrow? That's been planned for months. The board voted down all 3 measures, 4-1, with only Karen supporting her own coup attempt. Even her wine club allies could smell the desperation. As the meeting dissolved into chaos, Karen made one last announcement. Anyone who disrupts tomorrow's gala will be prosecuted for trespassing. Gary Chen, our lawyer, stood with theatrical calm. Actually, Karen, the gala is a public HOA event on common property. Every dues-paying member has equal right to attend and document. Page 15, Section 8 of the bylaws. You wrote them yourself. She fled the meeting like her hair was on fire, but not before I saw something in her eyes that confirmed everything. Pure, undiluted fear. She knew we had something planned, but not what. The unknown was eating her alive. That night, our group chat buzzed with updates. Cameras charged, positions confirmed, witnesses ready. The news crew covering the community gala had been tipped about potential drama. Rodrigo's truck was polished and positioned 5 minutes away. Everything was set for Saturday night's show. Karen had spent weeks throwing punches in the dark. Tomorrow, we'd turn on the lights. Saturday morning broke with Karen's final, most vicious assault, a full-scale character assassination that would have made Stalin proud. I woke to 17 missed calls and a text from my brother in New Jersey. Why is there a blog saying you're under investigation for elder abuse? The anonymous blog Pine Valley Truth had gone viral overnight, featuring photos of my father looking frail, twisted captions suggesting neglect, and fabricated testimonials from concerned neighbors about the dangerous conditions in our home. The kicker was a photoshopped image of Dad fallen on the floor, created from a legitimate photo where he was doing physical therapy exercises. But Karen had made a fatal error in her rage. She'd included specific medical information about Dad's prescriptions that only someone who'd illegally accessed his mail would know. The blog post literally contained evidence of federal crimes while trying to frame me for state ones. My phone rang nonstop as clients, friends, and relatives saw the viral lies. Deborah's blood pressure spiked so high her doctor threatened immediate hospitalization. She's trying to induce labor before tonight, Deborah gasped between contractions. She knows we won't leave if I'm in the hospital. By noon, the situation escalated beyond even Karen's usual evil. The doorbell rang to reveal 2 police officers responding to a welfare check on my father. Behind them, I could see Karen's Mercedes parked across the street, her silhouette visible behind tinted windows like a vulture waiting for carrion. We received reports of screaming and sounds of violence, the younger officer said, hand resting on his weapon. Dad wheeled himself to the door with military precision. Officers, I'm Anthony Castellano, retired Staff Sergeant, Purple Heart recipient. The only violence here is against the truth. What happened next was pure karma. The older cop studied Dad's face, then broke into a grin. Tony? Tony Castellano? Holy hell, you saved my uncle's life in '71. Jimmy Morrison from the 25th Infantry. They embraced like long-lost brothers while Karen watched her false report literally turn into a reunion. Officer Morrison took detailed notes about the false report, muttering about people who waste police resources while real crimes happen. As they left, he handed me his card. "When you nail whoever's doing this, call me. False reports killed my partner's response time to a real domestic. This shit costs lives." The afternoon brought intelligence from an unexpected source. Richard Stanton, Karen's husband, standing at my door looking like a man who'd discovered his wife was a serial killer. Which, financially speaking, wasn't far off. "I'm done covering for her," he said, handing me a thumb drive. "She's destroyed our finances, our reputation, our marriage. That drive has everything: HOA funds she stole, fake receipts, the private investigator reports on neighbors, even recordings of her planning false CPS reports." His hands shook as he spoke. "She promised it was just about protecting property values. I didn't know she was evil." The thumb drive was a prosecutor's treasure chest. Screenshots of HOA bank accounts showing transfers to Karen's personal shopping sprees. Emails planning coordinated harassment campaigns. Most damning, a spreadsheet tracking which neighbors to target based on race, religion, and military status, with notes like, "Mexicans bring property values down," and "Too many Asians on Oak Street." She documented her own hate crimes with the efficiency of a Nazi accountant. But the crown jewel was an audio file. Karen drunk at a wine club meeting, bragging about running out the undesirables and making Pine Valley pure again. Dr. Patel called an emergency pre-gala meeting at 4 p.m. 47 homeowners crammed into my garage, which now smelled like justice and determination. "I've completed the forensic audit," he announced, projecting spreadsheets that made everyone gasp. "Karen Whitmore Stanton has embezzled $247,000 over 8 years. But here's the beautiful part. She was sloppy. Every transaction is traceable, documented, indisputable. She used HOA credit cards for personal purchases, then filed false expense reports. That's wire fraud, tax evasion, and embezzlement. Federal crimes with mandatory minimums." The room erupted in controlled fury. The Korean family revealed Karen had cost them $30,000 in legal fees fighting bogus violations. The black veteran showed medical bills from stress-induced heart problems. The Jewish couple calculated $50,000 in lost property value from her harassment campaign. Together, we represented over $400,000 in damages, not counting the emotional destruction. Gary Chen stood with the gravity of a judge pronouncing sentence. "Tonight, we're not just towing a car, we're serving justice. Every camera, every witness, every document matters. She's going to prison, but first she's going to be exposed." As the meeting ended, Dad rolled up to me, eyes bright with military precision. "Logistics update. Weather's perfect, no rain to interfere with cameras. Mike confirmed 3 news crews attending. Rodrigo's in position with backup truck in case she tries to flee in another vehicle. Ethel's inside the venue, says Karen's planning to arrive at 7:45 for maximum entrance drama." He handed me a checklist with military efficiency. "Oh, and son, your grandmother would be proud. Rosa always said the best revenge is served legally with multiple witnesses." The sun was setting on Karen's reign of terror. In 2 hours, she'd make her grand entrance to the gala in her white Mercedes, expecting worship and wine. Instead, she'd find 47 homeowners with cameras, a tow truck with her name on it, and enough legal documentation to wallpaper a federal prison. The blog posts, false reports, and intimidation tactics had been her extinction burst, the desperate flailing of a dictator who sensed the revolution coming. Tonight, the revolution would be televised, uploaded, and shared with every HOA in America as a warning. You can only push good people so far before they push back with the Constitution, criminal codes, and a legally operated tow truck. Karen thought she was untouchable. In 90 minutes, she'd learned the difference between untouchable and untouchable in prison. The Pine Valley Estates annual gala kicked off at 7 p.m. in the community center, transformed with fairy lights and white tablecloths into Karen's personal throne room. 3 news crews mingled with 300 residents, there to cover what they thought was a fluff piece about community togetherness. They had no idea they were about to witness the most explosive HOA meeting in YouTube history. I stood near the entrance with Dad, both of us in our best suits, watching Ethel work the room like a spy in pearls, whispering updates through our group text. At 7:43, Karen's white Mercedes appeared like a shark fin cutting through dark water. She'd chosen the fire lane directly in front of the main entrance, maximum visibility for her grand entrance, maximum illegality for our purposes. The universe gifted us perfection when she spent 3 full minutes adjusting her makeup in the mirror, giving everyone time to position cameras. Through the tinted glass, we could see her practicing her smile, unaware that 47 phones were already recording her final crime. She emerged from the Mercedes like she was walking a red carpet, wearing a $5,000 sequined dress that sparkled like her delusions of grandeur. The smell of her perfume arrived 5 seconds before she did. Tonight, she'd apparently bathed in Chanel No. 5 mixed with hubris. She swept past the "No Parking Fire Lane" sign like it was a red carpet marker, her heels clicking concrete in a rhythm that screamed, "I own this place." Behind her, the Mercedes sat illegally parked, expired registration sticker visible, one tire actually touching the yellow fire lane paint, a detail Rodrigo would later call poetic justice. Inside, she worked the room with realtor precision, air-kissing potential clients and accepting compliments like a queen receiving tribute. The news cameras captured her holding court, completely oblivious to the revolution brewing in the parking lot. At 8:15, Dr. Patel took the microphone for the evening's special presentation. Karen preened in the front row, expecting praise. Instead, the projection screen lit up with HOA financial records that made the crowd gasp like they were watching a horror movie. "Ladies and gentlemen," Dr. Patel announced with prosecutor calm, "I present 8 years of systematic embezzlement, documenting $247,000 in stolen HOA funds." The screen showed receipts. Karen's Vegas trips charged as board retreats, her Mercedes payments as community vehicle maintenance, her wine collection as meeting refreshments. The crowd murmured, then rumbled, then erupted as each slide revealed deeper corruption. Karen's face went from smug to shocked to furious, her sequins trembling with rage. "This is illegal!" she shrieked, jumping up so fast her wine glass shattered on the floor. "You can't access those records without board approval." Gary Chen stood smoothly, holding up documents. "Actually, we can. Page 73 of the bylaws you wrote states any 5 members can demand emergency financial review if fraud is suspected. We have 47 signatures." The news cameras swiveled between Karen and the screen like they were filming a tennis match in hell. That's when Ethel's text hit our phones. "Showtime." Through the windows, Rodrigo's flatbed tow truck appeared like a chariot of justice, emergency lights painting the building red and blue. The driver, Rodrigo's best operator, an ex-Marine named Carlos, executed the approach with surgical precision. The crowd rushed to the windows, phones raised as Carlos positioned the truck. Karen stood frozen, her brain struggling to process the reality unfolding outside. "That's my car!" she screamed, shoving through the crowd in her designer heels. "You can't do this! I'm the president!" She burst through the doors to find Carlos calmly attaching the wheel lift, every movement deliberate and legal. Rodrigo stood nearby with a clipboard, documenting everything. "Ma'am, this vehicle is illegally parked in a fire lane on HOA common property with expired registration. Per HOA bylaws section 47C and state statute 28-4839, we're authorized to impound." The news crews followed the drama outside, cameras capturing Karen's meltdown in high definition. She grabbed Carlos's arm, assault on camera. She kicked the tow truck, property damage on camera. She screamed obscenities that would end any real estate career, broadcast quality audio. "I know people," she shrieked. "I'll have your business destroyed. You fucking spics don't know who you're messing with." The racial slur hung in the air like a fart in church. 300 people heard it. 3 news crews recorded it. The black reporter from Channel 7 turned to her cameraman. "Tell me you got that." He nodded, zooming in on Karen's face as she realized what she'd just done. Her real estate career ended in that moment, captured in 4K clarity. But the universe saved the best for last. As Carlos finished securing the Mercedes, a white sedan with official plates pulled up. 2 figures emerged, a sheriff's deputy and a man in a suit holding federal credentials. The postal inspector Mike had promised, arriving with timing that suggested divine intervention. "Karen Whitmore Stanton," the deputy called out, "we have a warrant for your arrest on charges of mail theft, wire fraud, and making false reports to Child Protective Services." The crowd gasped in unison, the sound of 300 people simultaneously achieving catharsis. Karen tried to run in her sequined dress and heels, making it exactly 4 steps before tripping on her own hubris and face-planting into the decorative bushes she'd fined the Johnsons for trimming incorrectly. The deputy helped her up, handcuffs glinting in the gala lights. "You have the right to remain silent," he began, as every phone streamed the Miranda rights to Facebook Live. "Marcus!" she screamed, mascara streaming down her face like toxic rivers. "You did this! You destroyed everything!" I stepped forward, Dad rolling beside me, and delivered the line I'd practiced for weeks. "No, Karen, you did this. We just made sure everyone saw it." The crowd erupted in applause that drowned out her continued shrieking. As the deputy guided her into the patrol car, her husband Richard emerged from the crowd with a process server. "Karen, you're being served," he announced, handing divorce papers through the window. "And before you ask, yes, I'm keeping the house. Check the prenup clause about criminal convictions." The look on her face, captured by 17 different angles, was Renaissance art painted in real-time karma. The Mercedes disappeared on Rodrigo's flatbed just as Karen vanished into the patrol car, two symbols of false power removed simultaneously. The news crews scrambled for interviews, but the story was already writing itself. HOA president arrested at own gala after towing incident exposes years of crimes. Within an hour, #HO Karen was trending nationally. The revolution wasn't just televised, it went viral, reaching 2 million views before midnight. Justice had been served with a side of public humiliation, garnished with federal charges, and live-streamed for the world to witness. The dictator had fallen, and Pine Valley Estates was finally free. The emergency HOA election happened right there in the community center, democracy rising from the ashes of Karen's empire while the news crews kept rolling. Ethel Morrison won by acclamation, not a single dissenting vote, and her first act as president was to motion for reversal of all fines issued in the past 8 years pending review. The motion passed unanimously. Just like that, $400,000 in predatory fines evaporated, and you could actually hear people crying with relief. Within a week, the story exploded beyond our wildest dreams. The footage of Karen's arrest hit 2.3 million views, spawning 1,000 memes and a warning to HOA tyrants nationwide. The postal inspector's investigation revealed Karen had committed mail theft across 3 states, following her trail of destroyed neighborhoods. The federal prosecutor, a woman who'd clearly waited her whole career for a case this satisfying, charged Karen with 47 counts ranging from wire fraud to civil rights violations. The plea deal saved taxpayers a trial: 2 years federal prison, 3 years probation, and $300,000 in restitution. She'd also been permanently banned from serving on any HOA board, nonprofit, or community organization, the legal equivalent of taking away Voldemort's wand. The transformation of Pine Valley Estates felt like watching a garden bloom after killing the weeds. Under Ethel's leadership, we instituted radical transparency, all financial records posted online, monthly town halls, and every fine requiring majority resident vote. The Korean family planted a gorgeous cultural garden where Karen used to park illegally. The Patels hosted Diwali celebrations that lit up the whole neighborhood. Dad started a veteran support group that met weekly in the community center, no longer fearing harassment for unauthorized gatherings. My business didn't just recover, it exploded. Turns out, being the guy who took down a corrupt HOA president was better marketing than any billboard. Clients called specifically requesting the contractor who fought Karen, and my calendar booked solid for 18 months. Deborah safely delivered our daughter Victoria, yes, we named her after our victory, who entered the world with perfect timing, 2 weeks after Karen entered federal custody. Even Richard Stanton became a client, hiring me to renovate the house he'd won in the divorce. "Least I can do," he said, writing the check. "Plus, I'm dating Dr. Patel's sister now. Life's funny that way." The ripple effects spread beyond Pine Valley. Our story inspired 3 other neighborhoods to investigate their HOAs, uncovering similar corruption. A state legislator who lived 2 streets over drafted Karen's Law, requiring HOA financial transparency and limiting presidential power. I testified at the state capitol, sharing our story to a room of lawmakers who actually listened. The bill passed 97-3, proving that sometimes fighting one bully can protect thousands of future victims. 6 months later, I received a letter that made everything worthwhile. It was from Karen's daughter, estranged for years after her mother had reported her Hispanic boyfriend to ICE. "Thank you," she wrote. "My mother's arrest freed our whole family from her reign of terror. I'm in law school now, studying housing discrimination law. The HOA scholarship helped me pay tuition. Ironic, right?" We'd established the Rosa Castellano Memorial Scholarship using recovered HOA funds, specifically for students fighting housing discrimination. Karen's stolen money now funded lawyers who'd prevent future Karens. Poetic justice at its finest. A year after the arrest, Pine Valley Estates threw its first annual Freedom from Tyranny Festival. The smell of barbecue replaced the stench of fear. Children played in bounce houses where Karen's Mercedes once blocked driveways, and neighbors actually talked to each other without checking for violations. Dad manned the grill, regaling everyone with war stories and HOA battle tales. Ethel, our 83-year-old president, worked the crowd like a beloved grandmother, which she'd become to half the neighborhood. The festival featured a special guest, Jim Martinez, the CPS investigator who'd helped expose Karen's false reports. He presented a workshop on recognizing harassment disguised as concern, empowering families to fight back against weaponized bureaucracy. What happened here, he told the crowd, should be taught in every civics class. You proved that ordinary citizens can stand up to corruption and win. I found Rodrigo by the beer tent, his tow truck parked nearby with a sign. The truck that towed tyranny, photos $5, benefits Veterans Center. We'd raised $3,000 by afternoon. Best tow of my career, he grinned, clinking beers. Though I hear Karen's working at a mall kiosk now, selling phone cases. Tried to cite a customer for having the wrong brand. We laughed, but it was tinged with pity. Some people never learn. As sunset painted the sky, I stood with Deborah and our kids, watching our neighbors celebrate freedom from fear. Dad rolled up, baby Victoria on his lap, both wearing matching HOA survivor t-shirts Ethel had made. You know, he said, surveying the scene, your grandmother would have loved this. Rosa always said the best revenge against bullies is a life well lived in spite of them. He was right. We'd won more than a battle against a corrupt HOA president. We'd built a community that looked out for each other, that celebrated differences instead of fining them, that understood the true meaning of home values had nothing to do with property prices and everything to do with human dignity. Hey everyone, I called out, raising my beer. Got a horror story about your HOA? Drop it in the comments. The worst one gets featured in next week's video. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell, because next time we're exposing the racist HOA that tried to ban American flags. You won't believe how that one ends. The crowd cheered, phones already typing their own tales of suburban tyranny. Because here's the truth I learned fighting Karen. Your home is your castle, but knowledge is your sword and shield. Every bylaw she wrote to oppress us became the weapon we used to defeat her. Every document she falsified became evidence. Every neighbor she terrorized became a witness. In the end, the very rules she worshipped became the chains that dragged her to federal prison. And that, my friends, is how you make a Karen's car and career disappear for good.
Thank you for tuning in to HOA Stories, where neighbors stand up against HOA Karens and karma comes a-knocking. If you like this story, hit that like button, share your thoughts below, and subscribe for more HOA tales and real-life neighborhood drama each week.